All my life I bought into hopelessness. My mama took life insurance out of me when I was 16 because they thought I wouldn't make it to be 18. And so all my life I bought into the idea that I'm gonna die at a young age. When they gave me the 55 to life sentence, it was a hopeless sentence. But if I buy into this hopelessness, if I believe in it, it's gonna be true. But worse than that, I'm gonna die a loser. And my sons are gonna think that that was my dad. I didn't want them to think of me as a mugshot for the rest of their lives. And so I just said, yo, I'm probably never going home, but I'm gonna do something to make my kids proud. If I mess this life up, I'm not gonna mess my chance up in the afterlife too. So I'm gonna at least have a better afterlife than I had in this life.
Welcome back to The Last Mile Radio. We have Rahsaan New York Thomas. Rahsaan is a graduate of the Last Miles program who has since been released. Rahsaan grew up in the notorious Brownsville section of Brooklyn, New York, where he faced gun violence, abusive policing policies, generational incarceration, and drug infestation. His choices in the face of such adversity landed him in prison with a 55 to life sentence. He turned his life around and became a writer, a curator, a director, a producer, and social justice advocate. He is most known as New York on the Pulitzer Prize finalist and DuPont Award-winning podcast, Ear Hustle, which he continues to co-host. Now on parole, he is the executive director of Empowerment Avenue, an organization that works to develop the careers of incarcerated writers, artists, journalists, and filmmakers pre-entry. In this inspiring episode, we talk about the positive impact being in TLM's program while incarcerated had on his life, his commutation by Governor Gavin Newsom in 2023, his work on Ear Hustle, the San Quentin Film Festival, and journalism opportunities inside and outside. Welcome back to our San Quentin sessions here. This is exactly the type of guest we want next, because after speaking to those who are going through the process, now we get to check in with somebody who's got to be altered and changed by the process and then put it to work once he left. Rahsaan, you've experienced everything we talked about. First off, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
And I think what most people want to hear most about is, and I asked it just a second ago and I wanted to make sure everybody heard, what's it like coming back? Because I know what my experience was at first. You said something really different to me. You said you felt like you were bringing hope.
Yeah, it definitely feels like I'm bringing hope, because the opportunities that I got at this place catapulted my life into another stratosphere. And on top of that, I had a 55 to life sentence. I'm not supposed to even think about going home for another 30-something years. And yet I'm free right now and thriving and able to come back and bring other opportunities for everybody else. And so, yeah, everybody seems happy to see me. I left a lot of people behind, but I like visiting them and knowing that they're right behind me and that the world's gonna be easier for them too.
And that you get to leave today, same day you came in.
That's the best part.
Yeah.
They're gonna let me back out.
Yeah. All right,
that was a condition of me coming in.
Yeah. Paint the picture where you are now, where you're living.
Yeah.
What's it like after being, down for so long?
The world is moving at warp speed and everybody has instant access to you. And you can't just call people. You have to make an appointment for a phone call. And most meetings happen on Zoom instead over dinner. The world is bizarre right now, but it's full of opportunities. And
how long have you been out now?
I've been home 23 months. I'm still on parole.
Almost 2 years, huh?
Almost 2 years. Yeah, next month makes 2 years. February 8th is my anniversary. And it's been going pretty well. What are some of the roadblocks that have been there that could have tripped you up, that you would like to tell the guys, to kind of be on the lookout for? There was one major roadblock. There's a lot of things that actually happened bad, but prison taught me to understand that a lot of things that happen for a reason, right? The things that help you learn and they have a purpose. And even if they weren't meant for a good purpose, you can make a good purpose out of it, right? And so I try to reframe everything that happens. But the one roadblock that stumbled me when I first got out is I came home under the illusion that I was free. And I found out immediately. I got checked by my parole officer.
Yeah.
I was not free. I was on parole.
Yep.
And it's a big difference.
But once I lowered my expectations of what parole was and what it meant to be out, I realized I got to be grateful to be out. I'm supposed to be doing another 33 years.
Did you spin that a little bit? And the way I spun it was, I kind of ended up liking the accountability check.
No,
you're not there.
But the way I spun it is I made an episode of Ear Hustle about it.
Right.
And I started on the documentary, but I settled for the episode of Ear Hustle.
All right, so I want to get into that. Yeah, it probably depends on who your PO is too, right? That probably has a lot to do with it. I don't know. I just I liked the fact that the guy would show up and piss test me, and I knew I was going to be good.
I never used drugs before in my life.
Well, for me, that was like...
I never took NA or A to get out of prison.
Yeah.
And so to come home and all of a sudden...
to do that?
Yeah. And then I would go to a trip in New York and be on a speaking panel or come back from doing something amazing. And when I get back, they're like, yo, piss in the cup.
Yeah.
I'm like, damn, I'm on this high. I just did this thing. I'm helping the world. And they just check you, piss in the cup. So it didn't feel like a necessary process to make sure I was being accountable because I don't use drugs. It felt like a way to like humble me from doing, to keep me humble.
I get it. But you can reframe that too. You can do it. You can be like...
I didn't manage to reframe that one.
Yeah. It's amazing to be on parole and be out traveling to do these amazing things. I was in the same spot you were. You have to get like travel permits, right?
Yes.
To go do the process. That's humbling.
Yeah.
You're like, you feel like you're doing God's work, and it's... And you're being sanctioned by, but understanding, and I guess the way you put it, you reframed it like I'm supposed to still be locked up.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, I want to make sure everybody understands. Tell everybody your nickname. New York, right?
Yeah. Rahsaan New York Thomas. New York's the nickname.
Brooklyn, New York.
Yes.
What ended up getting you out here in California?
No good reason, bro.
No good reason.
Learned from the law in New York. Didn't know that the laws were 10 times worse in California. I jumped out the frying pan into the fire.
Yeah. How long were you in?
22 years.
What, when that Gavin Newsom commutation came in 2023, what was, first off, did you know or understand that it was in the works?
Yeah, my commutation process started under Jerry Brown, so it was a long process that kept teasing me, but finally came through, yeah.
When it did finally happen, what were the emotions, feelings, shock?
I was shocked and happy, but also scared, because it required me to go to the parole board, and I knew like 5 people who had commutations that did not make their first parole board, so it was not a slam dunk. And I felt like it would not be a slam dunk for me either. And so I was like, here's this opportunity, but like, when is the opportunity going to actually come to full fruition?
Yep.
And so I was really nervous, but I just started preparing for the parole board, and thank God it went right on the first try.
What was that parole board meeting like?
It's the most difficult, traumatizing conversation you're ever going to have in your life. It's like you're sitting there being super vulnerable and taking full accountability for all the wrongs in your life and talking about all your trauma to a bunch of people who have like questions that are like poking at you, right? Mm-hmm. The way they frame their questions sometimes poke at you. But they're just testing you to make sure that you're not going to snap, that you can handle tough conversations and tough moments. But still, it's a tough conversation to sit through.
Yeah, your whole life is kind of on full display for everybody to see. All those scabs that are being ripped off, and you being asked to be accountable for it, and yeah, it's incredibly difficult. What was then the emotion when they said you were suitable?
I was so happy. I was like, wow, the first parole board, like, wow, this is real. And then it got a little hard, even though it was beautiful, because when you're never going home, you think differently. Your day becomes about what I'm gonna do positive today. And you don't think about time, like time just flies, right? You're in this alternate reality. But when you find out you're going home, now your mind starts shifting to the streets and thinking of different possibilities, like where you're gonna live and what kind of job and what are you gonna do first. And now your mind's halfway home, but they still like, yo, get in your cell, it's count time, right? And so like you live in like these in between two worlds. And then I don't know if this happened to you, but like I've never been tried more times in my life. I swear to God, the 5 months between like the parole board decision and going home, everybody came for me. Everybody's have imaginary issues, yelling, arguing, tripping, want to take phones, all kinds of weird stuff. And I just like, I'm going home. You're going to have that trip by yourself. Peace, I'm not getting mad with you. I'm going this way. All right, you're mad, I'm going this way, you know?
Misery loves company.
Misery loves company. And it was a pattern, I figured out after a while. Everybody doing that or people that have 5-year board denials. I was like, damn,
yeah, man,
stay away from people with 5-year board denials when you get a board date.
Did you develop any empathy around that?
I definitely have a lot of empathy, but in the moment.
Knowing that, like, hey, these guys are the ones, you know, I know exactly how they felt, and now I have the other feeling. I have the feeling of going home, they have the feeling of being denied.
Definitely, it allowed me not to take it personal. But the other side of that too is like, instead of like being mad at me, let's sit down and talk about what I did right and how you can do it right too.
Yeah.
Right? Let's sit around and talk about how you can get out instead of us both staying.
Well, I think that's problem solving, right? You know, it's the things that you're trying to learn in this process. How did you, okay, you mentioned it, you said, you know, this is, you know, I want to get into your background story here a little bit. You mentioned it, you woke up every day here going, I'm never getting out. So what made you, from somebody who in their mind was never getting out, make the choice to change, to do things differently, to be positive in the face of constant negativity, to say, I'm going to change, this is going to be a different person, I'm going to be more positive, with the thought that it wouldn't matter anyway?
All my life I bought into hopelessness. My mama took life insurance out of me when I was 16 because they thought I wouldn't make it to be 18. And so all my life I bought into the idea that I'm going to die, right, at a young age. But so my attitude, instead of like doing everything in my power to be one of the 3 people that make it out of Brownsville, I did everything to be one of the 7, right? And I realized at 29, I'm still alive. Like, that was all crap. I bought into crap. I'm still alive. And everything I did to stay alive really increased my chances of dying, and I'm still alive. And so when they gave me the 55 to life sentence, it was a hopeless sentence. But if I buy into this hopelessness, if I believe in it, it's gonna be true. It's gonna be true. But worse than that, I'm gonna die a loser, and my sons are gonna think that was my dad. And so I didn't want them to think of me as a mugshot for the rest of their lives. And so I just said, I'm probably never going home, but I'm gonna do something to make my kids proud. I'm gonna be a writer because my voice was still free. I'm gonna do something amazing with a pen, and that way they can still be proud of me. And maybe there's a way I can earn an income and still take care of them, right? And then the other part of me was like, lifetime is a long time to us, but if there's an afterlife, then the afterlife is forever, for eternity. And if I mess this life up, I'm not gonna mess my chance up in the afterlife too. So I'm gonna at least have a better afterlife than I had in this life.
Do you hear yourself and understand? I think that speaks volumes to the power of what the mind can do. Like that is all self-talk. That is all self-think. That is all mind present for you. That is of no outside influence. That is all your shift, your change. Do you get that? Do you understand how how powerful that was and how powerful it's going to mean to people who hear you right now?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, it's powerful for me because I'm trying to think about what I would have been like in that moment. I think I was looking for that. I remember I stood in front of the judge and I asked the judge to give me like everything. Like my lawyer's looking at me in the process. You can watch this on YouTube too. I'm just like, my lawyer's looking up at me and I'm going, aren't these burglary charges supposed to be 20 years? Why am I not getting 40 years? Like, I'm saying all this shit. And my attorney's looking at me like, what the fuck's you doing? Because I was just so miserable. That's the power of the mind. I said, I just want to be gone for as long as I can. I probably wanted to die in that moment. So to see the shift and change, it's been incredible. Speak to the carrying the work over. Okay, so the work you started in here, in the programs here at San Quentin, what's it been like carrying that over? Because I think that's one of the bigger questions a lot of guys are going to have. I do all this work in here and everything. Like, how will that translate to when I get out? You have the real life experience of what that looks like. How has that translated? How has that carried over from the work in here to doing the work out there?
Oh, so many ways. First of all, I was a co-host and a co-producer for the El Hustle podcast from here. And so when I walked out, my first job.
Tell the audience a little bit more about that, about how that came to be and how it has influenced so many, before you kind of speak to the what's next.
Jerry Brown got me the job with Ear Hustle. I don't know if he meant to, but he gave Earlonne Woods, the co-host, a Commutation. And so Earlonne was certainly going home, and like once we found out he was going home, they started looking for a new host to take his place on the inside, and he would be the outside host. Because it was tough for him. Earlonne was one of those guys that didn't really want to come back into the prison right away. Like, it was hard for him to come back in. So he's like, y'all, I'm gonna stay out here. I'll host out here. Like, I don't even care about hosting stuff. Like, you do it with Nigel or whatever. So that was the mindset. And we went through a rigorous interview process. And I got lucky that I'm the one they chose to be part of it. And that first year we were Pulitzer Prize finalists. So it was an amazing time to join this team and act like I could take credit for it, even though it was them, I just joined the team. So having that Pulitzer Prize nod and winning the DuPont Award, like coming home with that kind of accolades, it just made life easy. I was getting called in for consultant producer jobs. I'm doing one with Lynn Novick on Crime and Punishment. I got called in on Our Watch. It's just easy, it's easy. And then I had the foundation of having Ear Hustle as a part-time job as a producer. So that was easy. The other thing, I created a program while I was incarcerated called Empowerment Avenue. And what Empowerment Avenue
And you're the executive director of.
Yeah. And so I created this, and we were funded by Mellon while I was still incarcerated. They gave us a check for $600,000 while I was still in the cell. And so I walked home with this job waiting for me as the ED of my own program that I created. And the thing about Empowerment Avenue, it was like, it gets you incarcerated writers and artists past the barriers to being published and getting paid for your work, right? So for instance, I published 8 stories in 7 years without Empowerment Avenue because I'm relying on snail mail. I can't do Submittable, which is an online platform that you have to submit most stories through and stuff like that. But when connecting with volunteers that don't come into the prison, so there's no over from reality issues, we're able to, these volunteers are able to get us past these barriers. And I published 42 stories in 31 months. And I paroled with 30,000 just from writing. And so my life was just different the day I walked out the door. It wasn't about like where I'm gonna live, where my next meal is coming from, what I'm gonna do. It's just like, where can we go next, and how can I expand opportunities to other people? And the third thing I didn't tell you about is the films. I produced 2 films while in prison. One I wrote, directed, and produced. The other one I produced with a guy named Adamu Chan. He paroled, and he was doing What These Walls Won't Hold from the outside, and me and Edmund and Tan and Lonnie Morris were working from the inside, and we were producers on the project. And when I came home just in time to see it win the San Francisco International Film Festival Award for Best Mid-Length Feature, and beating out my homie Camu Bell. Shout out to Camu Bell. So it was just, my life was just different. Like, and having a feature film, the credits for a feature film under your belt, it qualifies you for certain funding and grants that you don't qualify for if you haven't done a feature, right? You just can't, you have to go pair it with somebody, a producer or something. But if you have that feature yourself, you qualify. If you get 2 features, you qualify for another level of funding. So having these 2 award-winning films, Friendly Signs and What These Walls Won't Hold, it opened up a whole nother level of doors for filming. And so I'm about to put out about 4 or 5 documentaries this year alone.
When you come back here and you show that and talk about that hope, and but then you speak to how all these doors open for you because of these things and everything like that. How do you translate that to some of the guys that are getting out and everything like that, and maybe some of those things aren't lining up for them? How do you try to help not squash their hopes?
Yeah.
Because that's a big thing for me when I walk into these walls. I want to make sure everybody knows that, like, hey, it doesn't matter the circumstance of why or how it happens, it's still going to hit you in the face no matter what. And you talked about the little things with the PO and stuff like that. How do you navigate that with some of your peers around when things don't go great for them coming out the gates, but they should know that it still can be the life of their dreams if they're willing to put the work and work into it? Because you put the hell of a lot of work into it. I think that's the point of all this. Like, you put a lot of work into it to get these things and these doors to open for you. Definitely
putting a lot of work in. And so we do that in a lot of ways. Number one, peer support, right? I have a beautiful community in the Bay Area, formerly incarcerated filmmakers, and formerly incarcerated podcasters, just formerly incarcerated people, period. It's a beautiful community in the Bay Area, super supportive. There's still support groups, like Monday nights, they have the circles, right? You can actually pull up the support group if you still need that. But if not, you can just call somebody. I mean, we're there. And then the other thing we're doing is like the San Quentin Film Festival has become a pipeline. Tribeca asked for 6 of the films. They gave us fee waivers. 4 other festivals asked as well, right? So this film festival is becoming a pipeline to get attention on people's talent. And then personally, to make sure it goes right, we created a Returning Filmmaker Fund. And so we're launching the Returning Filmmaker Fellowship this March, right? Actually now, we're inviting people, a limited amount of people, because we only have a limited amount of resources. We only got 125 right now. And we're gonna try to raise more and do better. But like, we're gonna give out 25,000 to 4 people in March who are formerly incarcerated filmmakers to make sure they get the equipment. My boy Brian Acey came home, and he did TEDx San Quentin and Friendly Signs and all this great stuff inside. But outside ain't no media center. You can't go borrow equipment. You're on your own. So if you're a DP and an editor, but you don't have the $8,000 MacBook Pro that it takes, or you don't have the Sony FX3, then you can't really do it like that. You have to try to rent equipment. It's not really gonna work mathematically. And so we're trying to eliminate that. We're trying to make sure you have the equipment you need to succeed. We're trying to pave the way.
That's amazing to hear. And it kind of speaks to the journalism and opportunities that the empowerment avenue can access. Maybe speak to that a little bit more about those opportunities for individuals when they walk out of here.
Yeah, so the beauty of Empowerment Avenue is that when you walk out of here, you already have a career. And more importantly, to get you past the barrier of a felony conviction, somebody has to know you. Somebody has to know he's changed his life. That's not who he is, right? And so you make those community connections from prison. And so we empower you by connecting with volunteers in the industry. And then not only that, we try to teach. We don't want, if you have to call me to pitch to the New York Times, then I'm not empowering you, I'm your middleman. We try to empower the New York Times to work directly with you. We try to empower Type Investigation, different organizations to work directly with the incarcerated writer and eliminate the middleman and build form their own relationships, right? And so when you walk out, you have a CV of all the stories you published. You got a guy here at Hit Time Magazine. You got a guy here as the editor-in-chief of a freaking solitary watch. You guys doing amazing stuff from right here. And so when you walk out, you don't need me to look for a job. You're already working. You're already plugged in. You just go do your thing. So that's the point of pre-entry work. Because I believe you can't wait till you get home to start, right?
It's too late.
Number one, it takes a year to get a FICA score. I couldn't get a Macy's card until I got a FICA score.
Yep.
It takes 2 years to get 2 years tax returns to qualify for another level of credit and different things. And it's really hard to get apartments. You have these type of things because the laws in Oakland allow people to squat pretty easily. And so the landlord ain't letting you in until you got some kind of credit history, right? And so it takes hard to build all that up. And you starting at 60, 70, 50 something, you have to get ready for real life and retirement at the same time. It's just crazy.
Was California the only place for you when you got out, or did you look at maybe trying to transfer interstate compact to get back home? What was the mindset on that, and then choosing to stay? Was there too many hurdles to overcome for that kind of transfer, or was it, this was the best avenue for what you were trying to accomplish with what you learned and prepared for when you got out?
For me, I think personally the Bay Area was the best choice for me because it felt like it's almost unfair to be formerly incarcerated. I feel like there's a red carpet waiting for you in the Bay Area. It's like almost unfair. And I don't feel like it's like in the South, the homies down there are reporting it's not like that. Mm-hmm. It's not easy to get past the felony thing to get a job. Like they struggling down there to get past the barriers. Whereas out here, they got like out HIMSA has housing for you, like a real house that you get your own room. The bed is like pillow top or something, memory foam. It's like amazing. They got the different housing things where it's just really comfortable, really special. It's just, and there's the Bay Area community of formerly incarcerated people that support you. It's just so much support in the Bay Area. I think more than LA, more than other places. And so for me, also had the ear hustle job and just different things where I had an apartment waiting for me from a friend. The rent is like ridiculously cheap. I don't even want to say this, embarrassingly cheap. Like it's really like they just let me live there and they just charge me something to keep me accountable, right? It's like really cheap. And so I had these opportunities I don't have anywhere else. But I make it a point to take any job, any speaking gig in New York. I find myself back in New York 10 times a year, every chance I get to go see my mom and my kids. My mom's and that grown men.
Yeah.
Grown men.
How long are you on paper?
So February, I get another chance to get off parole. Okay. And so we'll find out what they think about it.
What is that something that you feel like you need to have come off?
Yeah, actually I have a cool parole officer now. and he signs every travel pass, but it's still a hassle of him.
To go through it.
Yeah, but I'm putting him through it because I get that. Everybody's asking me to fly everywhere, bro. Like, I'm going to Sundance next week, right? It's just always something. And so every time I'm turning around, like even to come here, he had to send something to San Quentin. So twice this month, he has to do travel stuff for me. And he already a guy that like has 80 cases and probably supposed to have 50, right? So here I am, the neediest client he have with another travel pass. But also I can't be a volunteer at San Quentin while on parole. And so it hampers my ability to come in and set up for the film festival and come in. I also volunteer for the Society of Professional Journalists, SPJ. And so it hampers my ability.
Isn't that crazily counterproductive?
Yeah, it's counterproductive. It's holding me back. It's a hassle. And so I don't even ask to travel as much as I want to or do as much as I want to because I don't feel like bothering my PO too much.
You talked about the San Quentin Film Festival. Explain to everybody who may be listening or watching what it is, what it's become,
yes,
and how much the influence it's had, because you talked about getting out and being able to go and see a film that you were a part of be up for an award somewhere else.
Yeah. So the San Quentin Film Festival was really just a testament to the power of proximity. I figured me and cousin Corey came up with this thing, and we figured that what happened to her. Like, she came here to do an Amazon Audible project with me and another incarcerated person named Emil. And she became a volunteer, and we can't get rid of her. She doesn't even live in California. She out here, she's flying across the country to come volunteer. It's crazy. And so we knew that if more people experience proximity with incarcerated people, it would change their minds, their hearts, and their whole, it would blow their minds. It would just change the trajectory of Hollywood. Because right now I feel like there's a lot of films made about system impacted people, a lot of films made about crime that are not accurate narratives. And there's so much money being made, and we're not even part of the industry like that. There's so many documentaries made and you don't get nothing out of it, right? The filmmaker goes on and get the accolades and gets whatever check there is. Sometimes a big check, sometimes a little check, but it's always a check and you don't get any of it. And so I wanted that to change. I wanted us to have control of our narratives. I wanted Hollywood to be a path to like a positive career on the outside so people can just do good. You ain't gotta go make the next big movie. If you can just be a DP on everybody else's film, you're great, right? And so I said, how can we make that happen? And we got permission, thank God, from the administration to hold a film festival inside a prison that would show the films of formerly and currently incarcerated people. And it would be different from any other film. I went to a lot of film festivals, and a lot of times there's 4 or 5 films happening at the same time. If I don't have no money like that, so there's no money in marketing. So if you don't have a way to get people to come see your film, you can't rely on a film festival to do it. They had me up against Luther Vandross like one time. I almost missed my own film to go see Luther documentary. Like, that's not even fair, bro. Yeah. So in this case, everybody was dialed in. All of the finalists were on deck. Everybody just experiencing the same films at the same time. It was packed. We sold out of prison. We didn't sell no tickets or anything, but you know what I mean, figuratively speaking. It was amazing, and so many relationships were formed from that, and so many people want to come back in and donate and teach their time, give their time to make people better. And A24 hired someone already. Jay Kim went home and got hired by A24. And another filmmaker said they'll never make a film again without hiring at least 5 informally incarcerated people. And like I said earlier, Tribeca asked to have the film submitted and gave us fee waivers, and N-Tribe asked to see the films and gave us fee waivers, and the Asian Cultural Center wants to show Healing Through Hula, and just on and on and on. And then the Returning Filmmaker Fund, and then Raheem winning 2 awards. He's going home to a podcast about him. Like, it's just mind-blowing, the impact, the direct impact. And then now these stories are gonna reach bigger platforms, and I'm waiting to see what the stories do to the minds of the public.
So, how you've watched the change for as long as you've been away, you've watched prison programs become what they've become. Speak to how important programs like The Last Mile are going to have to impact individuals who are currently justice impacted for when they get out.
Yeah, the thing I hear about The Last Mile that's probably best is the support you get when you get out on the outside. Last Mile connects you to a community. So real briefly, the magic of San Quentin is not any individual group, it's community. Like, when you don't feel like you're part of society, you get a fuck the world, excuse my language, you get an F the world tattoo on your face, and you go get the love that Maslow says that you need, a hierarchy of needs, love and acceptance. You go get that from the gang. But the gang is hard. They want you to ride or die. You can't tell on nobody. You have to do crazy things, right? But you do all that because you're so thirsty for that love.
Yeah, you want to be a part of something.
You want to be part of something. But if society makes you part of it with this, and without all those crazy requirements, just pay taxes and be good, right?
What has been a roadblock outside the PO? We talked about. I mean, community-wise, you was there? Have you ran up against the judgment of the fear?
No, for some reason, everybody knew about my crime before I came home, and I got no back flag. I think maybe because taking accountability for it.
Removed a lot of power when you do that.
Yeah, and I think also we have, even in public minds, even in prison and in the public minds, there's a hierarchy of crimes, right? And certain crimes against women and children are not cool, and you get branded, it's harder to make it back into society. Other crimes where the people that you harm were not harmless, it's like they don't get the same love, right? They don't get the same victim outrage. And so that's part of it. And I think the victim's family, they said in court they forgave me from day one. And so they haven't made a stink. And so I guess I'm just blessed in that way not to have to deal with that. I think when you look in the mirror, do you get that? Do you like, I understand that it's not the same for everybody as it is for me, and you don't take that for granted? Bro, I work about 60, 70 hours a week I sacrifice relationships, everything. It's remorse that's driving me.
Yep.
I owe a debt I can never pay. Never. And it kills me because I pay my debts. I pay the whole credit card bill off. I never owe them nothing.
How crazy is that, right?
Yeah, you're not getting that 29% interest.
Man, I have not, in 10 years, not paid off my credit card bill at the end of the month. And I'm like, this is what Dad was talking about all those years. About, yeah, that shit makes me laugh now to think about it. Before we get out of here, wanted to give you an opportunity to just kind of, speak directly to the justice-impacted individual who still is here. They have not bought into change. They have not bought into a place being bigger than, or offering something bigger than them. Speak to them directly about what your experience has been, understanding that it's going to take something substantial to move them off their spot to get them to where they need to be.
Yeah. I just want to say that it took me 13 years before I reached San Quentin, maybe about 7 years after being here before I really started to see hope that I would go home and start doing like really major things from here. And so it was a journey. It didn't happen overnight. But I'll tell you one thing, if I'd have kept doing the same things, I would have kept getting the same results. I would have never had nothing. If I kept buying into hopelessness, I would have no hope. And so I would say, man, buy into hopelessness. Give yourself a chance. And I know, coming from the hood and all that, the odds are 3 out of 10, right? That you're gonna make it, and 7 out of 10 don't. But you should be doing everything in your power to make it 4 out of 10 or be one of the 3 instead of everything you can do to fail. Because if you do everything you can do to fail, you definitely gonna fail. Give yourself a chance, bro.
There you have it. Thanks for joining us, man. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Appreciate you having me. That's what.
Yep.
All right.
Yep.
All right.